only if the two aspects are coordinated in a bipolar machine. So I will define government when you will have the coordination of these two elements, a general law and an execution, general providence and particular providence. In the tradition of political philosophy, we could say that this double structure is expressed in the old formula, the king reigns, but he does not govern. This is an old dictum which already found in the 16th century. In the tradition of modern democracy, we have to think to the division between legislative or sovereign power, which acts always through universal laws and principles, and executive power, which carries out in detail the general principle. It's one thing that's very amazing, that the first time we find this vocabulary, ordinatio and executio, order and execution, is in theology and not in political theory. We are here many, many centuries before that political theory articulates this. And you will see one of the discovery of my investigation is that vocabulary of public law administration is strongly linked to theological origins. Anyway, in this case, it's very clear, ordinatio and executio. So I would say that history of Western politics is precisely the history of the various and changing articulations, also conflict, naturally, of these two poles of power, reign and government, sovereignty and economy, the father and the son, law and order, law and police, we could also say. But anyway, this bipolar character must be there and remains there up to the end. Today we could say that the pole of government or execution has the primacy. It's clear, no? The crisis of parliamentary and legislative power is evident everywhere. I don't know if in India it's like that, but I mean, it does not exist anymore in Europe or the United States. No? You have an absolute primacy of government. But anyway, even in this case, both poles are there. So one pole can prevail on the other, like now is the case for government and executive power, but nevertheless they must be there. Otherwise there is no government. There is another form of power. So the third point, so we have two first definitions. The third point, I would call it the paradigm of collateral damage. In the history of the doctrine of providence, the most tantalizing aporia is perhaps the problem of the origin of evil, which will engage theologians and philosophers for centuries. If God governs the world, and if God's economy is necessarily the most perfect one, how can we explain evil in all its aspects? Natural catastrophes, illness, moral crimes, etc. So this problem really kept busy philosophers and theologians for centuries. And the attempt to find a solution to this aporia resulted in the invention of a paradigm that is perhaps the most significant theological legacy of the contemporary theory of governance. The argument was the following. God, in his providence, established general laws which are always good. Evil results from these laws as a collateral effect. The Greek term is really absolutely literally this, as kata epakolotusesis, as a collateral effect, as a side effect of the divine government of the world. So the evil is just a side effect of the good government. Thus, so I made a lot of examples, so thus from the general laws of the movement of the bodies and of the warming of earth comes the rain, which is in itself very good. But as a collateral effect, you may have storms and floods, and rain will fall where it should not have fallen. So this is just it. So you see, it's a collateral effect of a good thing. Alexander of Aphrodisia, who was a late Aristotelian commentator around the 2nd century after Christ, expounded this theory in a form which is particularly relevant for our purpose. God, he argues, cannot bother himself with details. Therefore, each act of the divine world government, as we saw, is directed to a primary and general end. But just as the head of a house, providing food for his family, feeds also as a side effect the little animals, the ants, the worms, and the rats who live in the house, in the same way, the general act of divine providence will result in collateral effects which can be positive, and then you will have then the paradigm of liberalism, or negative. Alexander argues, and this is a very important point, that collateral effects are not accidental, but define the very structure of the act of governance. Neither general nor particular, neither intentional nor casual, neither foreseen nor unforeseen, neither reign nor government, the collateral effect is the way in which the divine government becomes effective, in which providence realizes itself. And only in this form can the governmental machine, which always moves otherwise on two separate levels, general and particular, but only as a side effect, the machine can become operative. When today military strategies give the name collateral damages, or in French, bavure, to the calculated side effects of a military intervention, which can result in the destruction of cities and in human casualties, they unwittingly develop this very old theological paradigm. But if our hypothesis is correct, also in this case, the collateral effect is not something secondary or casual, but defines the very essence of an act of governance. There are no casualties in the act of governance, because the act aims to collateral effects. So, I mean, in a way, the military, when an American strategist says, we killed 1,000 persons, this was just a collateral effect of good action. We have to reverse. So it's true, but the collateral effect is the way in which government, the act of governance is realized. So that's another, now the fourth point. This is a point which already Michel Foucault has emphasized. The character which defines the divine government of the world is that providence cannot be simply an act of force, of violence, which abolishes and subdues the free will of the governed ones. The main character of the divine government is that it works through the very nature of the creatures, such that, as a 17th century theologian, French theologian Bossuet puts it, God makes the world as if God were absent from it. It's an incredibly intelligent thing. God governs the creatures as if they freely govern themselves. I quote, because this is just the extreme formulation of a very old theological theory. I quote, God allows us to be as we could be on our own. God allows to be a man what is a man, a body what is a body, thought what is thought, necessary what is necessary, and free what is free. So this incredibly sophisticated fiction, this subtle economy